Welcome to another episode of the Antifragile Reframe podcast, where struggles become strength and stress fuels growth. I'm Dr. Frank L. Douglas, the host of the podcast, and my guest today is Mr. Holzapfel,
Yeah.
a very good German name.
Mhm.
I spent a number of years in Germany, so I pick
Mm.
up on German names. And Mr. Holzapfel, he is a Lean Agile coach who takes anti-fragile practices from the classroom to the boardroom. He's CFO and co-founder of the L-EAF LAB. Welcome, Mr. Holzapfel.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here and have a chance to talk about anti-fragile theory and practice with someone such as yourself.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this with you. And since you take anti-fragile practices from the classroom to the boardroom, would you mind sharing with us an episode
Mm,
of an anti-fragile practice?
for sure. So one of the things that I was taught early by my father was that I should never ask anyone to do an experiment on themselves that I wouldn't do on myself first and have something to show for it. Um, and so the anti-fragile idea was something that I encountered through Nassim Taleb's book by that title. And at that particular moment in time, I was facing a early stage professional crisis, which was I was running a $6 million education business. First time I'd ever been in that CEO role. And I realized we had layers of problems outside of my control that I could influence and point out, but that was it. And I almost drove myself crazy trying to solve all the problems for all of the stakeholders all the time. And I had this great anti-fragile moment where in the middle of reading this book, I realized that there was a business model for myself personally that would allow me to be a consultant and also help generate L-EAF LAB at the same time, not requiring income immediately for the L-EAF LAB because of this other consulting work that I had. So like Nassim Taleb says, you want a dumbbell strategy. And so I went for the dumbbell strategy, and that's what I've been sticking with since 2019. And so far, so good, although I need to find some wood to knock on here before I say that too loud.
Well, it's interesting. I also uh, was influenced by Nassim Taleb's book. His first book, The Black Swan,
Hmm.
was the book that really brought me to awareness of his work. And interestingly enough, the initial podcast was named Reframe for Resilience. And one of
Mm.
my guests, near the end of the podcast, we got into talking about Nassim Taleb's Anti-Fragile book. And I
Mm.
spontaneously said to him, I said, you're right. I will change the name of the podcast from
Oh.
Reframe for Resilience to the Anti-Fragile Reframe, because
Mm.
in the real sense, what we really want to do is to become stronger through the stress, because of the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I did that and actually articulated 5 elements of anti-fragile reframe. One of them, which of course was the same element I used for reframe for resilience, and that is shift in perspective. So could you talk a little bit more when you got this real insight, how that shifted your perspective? You sort of hinted at it.
Mm.
Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a moment where it was just pure desperation, and I knew that if I was going to keep doing what I really wanted to do, things were going to have to change. I was going to have to sort of swallow some significant short-term discomfort, and I saw that that was better because the path that we were on personally in my, marriage, but also in the outside world was just not sustainable. So the shift came, I'm a fairly stubborn person, so it didn't, it knocked me once, knocked me twice. It took a couple of times for me to realize, oh, okay, I am the one who is actually now the impediment. I need to find a different way to see a different life. And, I had enough hours just staring up at the ceiling above my bed that the first pieces fell into place, and then I was able to see that what was happening and then build from there.
Yes. And the shift, the important shift being that you needed to make a change in the way you were looking at the problem.
Precisely.
Very good. Another thing we talk about is an element of anti-fragile reframing is expanding access. And
Mm,
access means not just the people, to ideas, etc. So as you think about access, what other things did you access?
mm. Yeah. Mostly the people who had more wisdom than I did in a moment where I was trying to figure things out and knew I was not,
Mhm.
I was seeing some things clearly, but I knew I wasn't. So it was basically just finding other more experienced people who'd been in roughly the same place who I could tell things to. They could, we could make jokes about it, but they would really help me figure it out. And so part of it was I actually ran into a really good coach at Boston University's Agile Innovation Lab. He then actually coached me for a while, which then helped as I learned Lean and Agile and the anti-fragile stuff,
Mhm.
translate it from the old business that I had been into the Leaf Lab, and sort of um, allow those initial insights to really grow.
Could you share with us a little bit of what the intersection and overlap was for you with respect to Lean Agile and your anti-fragile business?
For sure, yeah. So initially, I came to Agile through Agile software development. I had heard about lean manufacturing methods
Mhm.
earlier just through family connections. What I came to understand in really the essence of lean thinking, and I was just a huge nerd, so I read and read and read, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of volumes to really know I had done a comprehensive survey of the relevant literature. Um, Once I had done that survey, I realized these things are the essential inputs to anti-fragility. Anti-fragile, I realized, was not a thing more. It's like anti-fragile is a condition that one is either near and in or far away from. Lean and agile methods help the anti-fragility of the person, of the executive, of the whomever express itself most usefully.
Could you give
Um,
us a concrete example? This is interesting because I'm not a student of Lean Agile.
oh, okay.
Well, but I am fascinated. I'm a student of lean manufacturing and other lean aspects, but Lean
Mhm.
Agile, no. So I'm really fascinated by this.
Okay, cool. So then the agile side of things, and again, this is this is my own
Hmm.
limited, non-comprehensive understanding of the subject was you have to, in a moment where your anti-fragility is being drawn upon, there's figuring out both what to do, the right thing, and how to do it
Which
right.
one?
Doing the right thing is where agile and short experiments in, what is the market, what is the environment, who are the people, short, very short cycle, low cost experiments.
I call it rapid prototyping is the term I use
Bingo.
to that.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's exactly what it
yeah,
is. Yep. So
yeah.
you do that to learn about the environment,
Mhm.
and then you try to synthesize that into more strategic, sort of longer term insights that you can build upon. Um, Once I had started working with a coach and sort of kept learning, I was able to then disentangle those two things. And that was really what made the difference because lean is how do you build it the best way with the minimum inputs? And agile is how do you know you're building the right thing before you engage the lean process?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's rapid prototyping designing married with then the building capacity of Kanban and other stuff that I learned later.
Yeah. No, and it's really very beautiful when you think about it. You shifted perspective, then you begin to access not only people but ideas and another thing we talk about is innovating together. And so taking those ideas and innovating around them, together. Just wonderful. And I've learned something today with respect to Lean Agile and how you have used it. As I said, I'm not a student of Agile, but
Mm.
this has been really very, very useful
Mm.
for me. And you
Excellent.
have now taken this,
Yeah.
and the fifth element that I talk about, or the fourth element rather, is multiplying benefit. That, when you're thinking about this reframe you're doing, you ask yourself the question, is it going to benefit others? And you move from the aggrieved I to the productive we.
Precisely. Precisely. Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
so tell us a little bit more about the things that you do and how you
Sure.
help your clients to see how this change that they're going to make is
Mm.
to do what actually they want to do is to benefit others.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, and a lot of that again comes through these lean and agile practices, which is you can't talk about anything until you're talking about the people involved and the needs and values of those people. You will go nowhere until you do a very, very thorough reckoning and accounting of those two basic layers of whatever you're trying to build or make. Anti-fragile, as you know, only happens by exposure to a multiplicity of
Mhm.
different inputs,
Mhm.
political perspectives, gender perspectives, economic whatever it is.
Yeah.
The team then works together to your point, and this was where I was really quite weak because I had come from a much more traditional
Mhm.
background. Once I learned how a team can
Mhm.
be, 1 + 1 is 11
Yes.
because you have these complementary overlapping skills, then things just became much, much easier. They
But,
can do
let me
instantly.
ask you a question because it's just fired my imagination. Uh, how does that fit with AI and AI approaches today?
Right. I wish I had a good answer. I have a little bit of an answer because AI is moving so fast,
The past.
my ability to keep up is limited. What I will say is, especially in the age of AI, thinking about the humans, the people, the propagating the benefit of what the humans are doing has to be central to what AI is going to be about.
Mhm.
So I don't see AI as necessarily an enemy. I certainly don't see it necessarily as an ally just because someone's trying to make money off it some way or another. So you just have to be, not skeptical, but aware. But for young people, holy cow,
Yeah.
the learning environment for them is unlike it's ever been. I mean, there's no reason AI is demolishing the hurdles to learning for many, many, many billions of people who were underserved before, is my hope. I mean,
So
it's
now we get back to the days of Aristotle and others. We will be teaching students how to think, how to take information and to think and to
Mhm.
expand, and how to do rapid prototyping because now you can really do rapid Gedanken experiments,
That's right. That's
thought
exactly right.
experiments. You know, people ask me, well, what do you wish? And I said, I wish that I was about 20 or 30 because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
opportunity now using
Holy cow.
AI to do the things that I did when I was 20 and 30, to me, it's just
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Problems we'll be able to solve. Okay. And we'll be able to solve them because we'll be able to test whether they work or not and make the adjustments, etc.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, I feel like I'm alive at the time of the equivalent of Flight and the Wright brothers
Yes.
in
Yes.
1908. It
Yes.
has that.
No, yes, it's that equivalent. Mr. Holzapfel, this has just been wonderful. Thank you, and thank you for bringing Lean Agile to my awareness. I'm going to have to do some reading about it, and I like the way you have integrated it with anti-fragile thinking. And all the best to you in your consulting and as you bring things, anti-fragile things from the classroom to the boardroom.
Thank you so much, sir. I greatly appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you indeed.